molest them and sell them or whatever they do to these kids and abuse them. And so they're looking for something to feel like they're wanted and needed. And we have to remember that. And then some of these kids were raised in this hate where they are taught to do these things. So it does make our job more difficult, but we still have to do it. As a hand and feet of Christ, we have to find a way.
Well, we may not always feel like we have the right words, but a lot of times it's just an effort. If we're dealing with somebody who is willing to at least engage with us. With a person who's not, it doesn't matter whether you have the right words or not, because you're doing it from the very beginning. That's where that discernment comes in. To be informed, I think all of you would agree with me that we're dealing with multi-layers here. With the BLM movement, we're dealing with apparently some pretty hardcore Marxists who want to advance a particular political agenda in our country, and they're simply using whatever wedge issue they can find. This just happens to be the issue that they're using. If they have a better one tomorrow, they'll drop this one and pick it up. So there's that layer. There's the peaceful, authentic protesters who have some real concern about police abuse, who are being usurped by them. And I think a lot of them know that. They're not all ignorant of what's happening, and they're not sure what to do about this. Do you walk away from your issue because it has been taken away from you? Do you fight to get it back? Well, these people are obviously difficult to fight with. Then you have just a general social justice issue that's always fueling this in the background, which I want to finish up talking about. But Amy, you had your hand up.
Well, this kind of goes along with the Black Lives Movement, but also the message as far as abortion goes, which is life is so important to all of us. My body, my rights, my choice. And I can tell you from personal experience, like when I began going to the Capitol to share my testimony there was one particular time that there was a light blue old pickup truck sitting in the median right in front of the Capitol. And this was January 22nd, and it was around that because that was the time of year that we went up to the Capitol. And on 4x8, I know it was a 4x8 sheet of plywood, this old looking man, it said, "Evil scum kills babies." And it broke my heart because I thought, that's not how you're going to reach. That is not how you're going to reach people who are in it.
We may be speaking the truth, but it's certainly not in love.
Right.
There's no redemption out of that.
And that was not, and so I think with the Black Lives Matter, with abortion, or whatever the situation is, that if we can look at every person as a potential child of God, whether they are a child of God, a potential child of God, if we can look at them as somebody God wants to deal with.
Right. To apply, Amy's applying what we're saying to an issue that is near and dear to her heart, which is abortion. The same things we're saying would apply there. Discernment. Who are we talking to? Are we talking to a doctor who makes millions of dollars by performing abortions and doesn't care any longer that he or she is destroying life?
In which case the sign was fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Just to kind of throw that in there. You knew where I was going, so you wanted to get that in all the time. Or are we talking to a 19-year-old girl whose boyfriend forced her to have an abortion, and she doesn't have a mom or a dad to turn to and is alone in the world and really doesn't know what to do? We don't approach those two people in the same way. We can't. We would be fools if we did. So this is where discernment comes in. Who am I talking to? And the only way that I can know who I'm talking to is to take the time to find out who they are. I've got to be willing to listen. That's true in the abortion issue. It's true with what's going on with the Black Lives Matter and all of this as well. So part of what I'm saying is that we as Christians should be the type who try to slow things down a little bit Have you noticed that the other side always wants to speed things up? It's got to go fast. Before you can find out what the facts are, we establish the narrative and we move on to the next story, so that by the time the facts come in, nobody's paying attention anymore. That's frustrating for us because we need to base what we do on the facts. But we have to believe that if we let them take the point, if that's what it means, because it's hard to be out front if we're not going to abuse stories the way they do. How can we ever possibly get out in front of them? Because they're always going to be out in front, abusing the story, establishing an incorrect narrative. We're always going to be following behind, picking up the pieces, trying to figure out what really happened, what the truth really is, and then get that truth out to people. And this has been demonstrated time after time after time. Katrina, in the way that it was reported, is a good example. Zimmerman in Florida, the way that it was reported, is a good example. The white polo players at that college out on the East Coast, and those stories. If you don't know some of these stories, you can Google and find them out. But every one of them and many more are examples of how the truth is being abused. And we've got to be a people of truth. So we can add to our list. I'm making a list in my mind here of how we respond to these kinds of issues, this one particularly. And right at the top of our list, several of you mentioned it, is pray. That's got to be. If we're not praying about this, we'll never respond well. Because God will give us insights into these things that we won't get from ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, or anybody else. Because He sees it all. And He can give us insights into the person that we're talking to. So prayer is important. Then Kay reminds us, we speak the truth in love. We speak the truth in love. The next thing that we've said is we use discernment, which means sometimes we don't speak. But not always. There is a time to speak, and there's a time to speak the truth in love. And we don't run to the front and have to feel like we've got to win the argument. We are not here to win the argument. We're here to win the soul. If they win the argument, win the soul, then we have triumphed in God's eyes. Now, that's a hard thing for some of us because we've watched politics for a long time. And we want to win political victories. And I understand that. I'm a political animal too. But I have to remind myself that my job is not to win political victories. My job is to win souls for heaven. And if I lose all the political victories and win souls, then I can stand before God someday and know that He's going to say, well done, my good things. We can win political victories and we can lose souls. We can win political victories, and tomorrow or next week, those political victories will be gone like smoke. And you'll be right back again trying to win the same political victories. When you win a soul, you will never lose that. That's a crown you can throw at the Lord's feet, and nobody can take that from your hands. That's a mark that you've made in eternity that will always, always be there. So I hand over here. Jennifer.
I think that part of discernment, part of praying is that we are very careful that we're not pushing our own agenda and that we're standing on the truth of the Lord. Because I think sometimes you can get so passionate about something that you forget to examine it by the Word.
Gotcha.
And you get wrapped up in the heat of an argument and like you said, trying to win when that's not what it's about. And I would never want to be judged based on my extreme view in Christianity. Therefore, I don't want to talk to someone like the Word is like Lives Matter in a manner where I'm already confrontational because I'm judging them based on their extremes. That's not fair to me, and that's not fair to them. And so I think it's very important that we walk in without an agenda, but on the truth and the love of the Lord.
Okay, so Jennifer's reminding us that we need to ask ourselves, what is our agenda? Is it a personal agenda or is it the Lord's agenda? And I heard in something that you said there that made me think that we should not respond out of fear. And this is hard because I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the things I see happening make me afraid. I imagine myself experiencing that in my own neighborhood, and I think, what would I do if that happened in my neighborhood or in my city? And I don't like the way that it makes me feel. But we can't respond out of fear because that just causes us to spiral down into the wrong kind of response. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that I've always gone to is 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 23. And it's Paul talking about becoming all things to all people. To the weak, I'm weak. I'm a slave to all. To the Jews, I became a Jew. And it's my note that I have on the side is becoming entangled in political or philosophical arguments can hinder my ability to share the gospel. Because that's my true agenda. And so that's one of the things, every time I go back to this and I pray for God to give me enough discernment to understand and to talk to that person based on the gospel and not my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. We want to be informed and vote. If you're called into politics, then like Daniel, for instance, then we do that. Most of us will not be. But in a free society, which we still have, I hope, it's democratic, we can still be informed and we can still vote, and we do. And we can be passionate for our stand politically, but somewhere passion turns into partisanship. I'm not sure exactly where that is. I struggle with that sometimes. I don't mind telling people who I vote for or why I vote for a particular side. But I believe that I'm doing that because it is in line with my spiritual beliefs. I hope that it is. But I don't want to be a hopeless partisan. I just want to be passionate about what I see are spiritual issues and issues that are important to Christianity and to the church and to my brothers and sisters in Christ. So we always want to look for that line. It's important that we do that, especially as we reach out to younger people. Because Christianity, evangelical Christianity, has been accused of being completely sold out for the Republican Party. And Christianity should never be the handmaid of any political.
Amen.
I don't care what it is. We don't serve them, they serve us when it comes to that. And you understand what I mean by that. We're servants, but you get it. So we can't be the servants of a political movement or personal party. We are expressing our heartfelt spiritual beliefs through political means. Unfortunately, we have a two-party system, and that's just the way it is. You have to pick one of the two. All right. So speak the truth in love. Do so with discernment. After praying. Don't see the other person as a movement. There is a movement, but that other person is a person. And they have a soul. And that soul is going to go to either heaven or hell. And if this is the only chance I have to talk to them, do I want to talk them out of Marxism? Or do I want to talk them out of heaven? I want to talk them out of heaven. We can deal with Marxism later. Because I want to make sure that they go to heaven. So that is our agenda. Gentlemen who are going to serve tonight, if you'll come on up, let me remind you what